And welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. Glad you're with us this morning. We're here every week meeting interesting people and talking about topical issues. We welcome back one of our favorite guests.
One of our favorite guests is right. Dr. Joe Ferretti's coming back. He's the provost at the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center. Been on a couple of times. We're going to have him back again. There's a lot going on out there, a lot of exciting research, a lot of exciting developments, and he's going to be telling us about what's going on with our health.
A big job creator, certainly an economic stimulus out at the Health Sciences Center, but also affecting the future of medicine in the state of Oklahoma. We'll learn all about that and a lot more from Dr. Joe Ferretti today on The Verdict.
In driving rain, blistering heat, and bitter cold, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, Chesapeake drills non-stop for natural gas on American soil. Chesapeake drills more new gas wells than anyone else, and from those wells collects the most drilling information and acquires more 3D seismic images, leveraging every efficiency to improve the odds of finding more natural gas every day with every well we drill. The better job we do of discovering bigger reserves of clean-burning American natural gas, the greater the prosperity of our nearby communities, our state, and our nation. And as long as there are more gas reserves to be found here in the U.S., we will never rest. Chesapeake. Natural gas wins the day.
Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate in Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Very pleased today to welcome back Dr. Joseph Ferretti to our show. Dr. Ferretti is the Senior Vice President and Provost at the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center. He's had an illustrious academic career. He got his PhD from the University of Minnesota. He also studied at Johns Hopkins University and had a stint at the Pasteur Institute in Paris. His primary field is infectious disease research, and he's a recognized international authority in that area. Came to the University of Oklahoma in 1969, as he puts it, on a 5-year plan. And as he has told us before we started, he's on the 8th renewal of his 5-year plan, and we're pleased about that. He's been provost at the Health Sciences Center since 1995. Joe, welcome back.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, welcome back to The Verdict. Tell us what's going on. What's the latest out at the campus?
Well, it's really an exciting time on our campus, actually for the last several years, but it's going to continue in the future as well, because we have projects going on, building projects, for example. The Cancer Institute is well on its way. The Diabetes Center is well established. Allied Health Program now has a new building. And finally, the Children's Outpatient Clinic is going to be set to open this summer.
We have some pictures of some of the capital projects that are going on your campus. Let's take a look at the first one there, and you can kind of talk us through this. What building is this?
Okay, this is the Children's Outpatient Clinic and Medical Office Building. It's a 14-story building, approximately almost 300,000 square feet, and it's going to house all of the pediatric clinics, including the Jimmy Averitt Cancer Center, the Diabetes Center, and every other area that we have in pediatrics.
Will it replace Children's Hospital?
No, it's going to be right next to Children's Hospital. It's going to be the building that is immediately next to Children's Hospital, so there's going to be a beautiful flow of patients being able to go directly from the clinic to the hospital and vice versa.
Okay, let's take a look at the next picture and see what we got.
This is the new Allied Health building. It's about a 200 square foot building, and it houses all of the programs in physical therapy, occupational therapy, dietetics, speech and hearing, and radiation technology, so sonography and X-ray, et cetera.
Okay, and I think we have one more picture we can look at, see what's going on at your campus, and this is a beautiful building.
And this is the Cancer Center. It's a 220,000 square foot building, 7 stories. It's going to house all of our clinical activities that take place in cancer, and we're just so excited that that's really going to come to be.
And these 3 buildings will obviously employ more people than you have today.
Absolutely, that is going to be happening, and we think that the number of new people coming here is going to be not only increasing the number of job opportunities, but also increasing the general economy of the area.
How important are the buildings to getting good people to come to Oklahoma to work inside these buildings?
Well, we always know that space, if you have space, people will come. And that's one of the attractions.
They don't want a cubicle over in a corner of a basement.
They want the best, the latest, and the newest technology, and that's what we're building here at the Cancer Institute.
Well, that must enhance your recruiting ability to get the really top-notch people in these fields to come if they think they're coming into good circumstances.
It certainly does, and I think that's one of the real attractions that we have nowadays, and that we can provide those leading-edge technologies and space for people to come and work here.
Remind our viewers about the 3 or 4 or 5 major areas of endeavor at the Health Sciences Center. I know you have the med school, you have the allied health, but would you run through what programs you have there?
Well, we have 7 different health professional schools.
Okay,
so we have medicine, dentistry, nursing, pharmacy, allied health, the College of Public Health, which is very important these days when we talk about prevention, as well as the graduate college, which provides the next generation of scientists.
Talk about the allied health just for a minute. What fields of study are included within the allied health?
In allied health, we have physical therapy, occupational therapy, dietetics, speech and hearing pathology, and of course radiation sciences. And that's to train people how to use the X-rays and sonography and all of the adjunct areas that are important for diagnoses today.
Will the buildings we just looked at have another effect of increasing the areas of study that your people are able to do?
Well, some of these buildings will allow that to happen, and we certainly know that there are shortages of physical therapists, for example, in the state of Oklahoma, but nationwide as well. And you can look at other areas. Nursing has a severe shortage, and we want to increase our student enrollment in both of those areas.
How's your relationship out at the state capitol? Because I know you all rely on state funding and impetus from those people.
Well, we've had rather flat budget for the last couple years, and we still don't know what's going to happen this year. We're hopeful that it won't be too bad of a cut, and most states are taking cuts, but it will have an influence on us, and so we're getting poised to see what's going to happen.
Well, in general, through the years, compared to other states and typical medical schools, have they been favorable? Have they been unfavorable? Have they been kind? Have they been unkind? What's your take?
We probably have the lowest funding of a College of Medicine of any of our surrounding states. The Texas schools and for example, Louisiana, all are 2 to 3 times the funding of our medical school. Kansas is at least double. Arkansas and New Mexico are also quite a bit ahead of us, and so we do have a ways to go. And I think this is a matter of real concern when you take a look at the number of physicians that we have per 100,000 people. We are the lowest in the country.
I was going to ask you what benefits and what get cut. Is it the research arm, or is it the number of doctors that are eventually put through into the state?
Well, the number of doctors that is put through is we're trying to expand that, but we can't expand that because it's determined on a faculty ratio to students, And that's determined by a national organization of accreditation. So unless we get more faculty, we can't take on more students, and that's a limiting factor.
And without more funding, you can't get more faculty.
Exactly, exactly.
What about enrollment? Is it increasing, decreasing?
Well, enrollment in some areas has increased. We've increased physical therapy, we've increased nursing. A couple of years ago, we've increased the number of pharmacists that we produce. And just this past year, we've increased the number of slots in medical school from 150 to 167. Now, we can't go any higher than that until we receive additional funding, but we're certainly poised to move to at least 200 students per year.
Let me jump in and get us to a break. We're visiting with Dr. Joe Ferretti at the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center. We'll be right back. You're watching The Verdict.
Most of the artwork that I produce is with colored pencil and watercolor. The subject matter that I use is, of course, Chickasaw. Most of my themes revolve around family and really that foundation that has been a part of Chickasaw life since ancient times. The Chickasaw Nation is a matriarchal society. You've got one lady, she's probably the oldest member of the family, that everybody goes to and that everybody reveres. That is something that every woman can look forward to in the Chickasaw Nation because they are extremely important in the family. Maybe one day I will be a matriarch. I think this is probably the secret to the success of our government, is that we still have maintained that idea that family is the most important thing and that we must minister to the family first, and then all other things will fall into place.
Home values are down in some states, but not in Oklahoma. Oklahoma's home values have increased 4.2% during the past 12 months. Unlike some states where home values have decreased as much as 20%. Good thing you're in Oklahoma. There may be real estate problems in some states, but there has never been a better time than now to buy or sell a home in Oklahoma. One of the most affordable states in the country, Oklahomans are buying and selling homes every day, and an Oklahoma realtor can show you how. Good thing you're in Oklahoma.
Okiwani is an Indian name for a place where children play. When we obtained the camp, we found a lot of oil debris left in the woods. We saw a commercial about how the oil and natural gas industry cleans up old oil well sites. We called the OERB and they agreed to remove tons of concrete and steel. It didn't cost us a thing. Thousands of children have left their footprints on this land. Thanks to the oil and gas industry, they will for a long time to come.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers and today's guest, Dr. Joe Ferretti of the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center. Kent?
Joe, do you have anything on the drawing board that may not be going on right now, but looking down the road 3, 5, 7 years in the future we might expect to see?
Well, we have a couple of programs that we're increasing. We've had some nice donations from the Donald Reynolds Foundation, which allows us to increase our research in the area of geriatric medicine. And of course, we have one of the few geriatric medicine departments in the country, and so that's a real advantage for us. But we've just recently recruited 4 new researchers, very well-known researchers, to come to Oklahoma, and we're going to be continuing to grow that geriatric research as being an arm for our geriatric patient department as well. So that's on the drawing board. And I think what's really exciting is in Tulsa, the OU College of Medicine has just opened a new School of Community Medicine. And the real objective there is to train the next generation of healthcare workers to be able to work with public health and prevention and work specifically in those underserved areas that really need the healthcare workers.
We're in an economic downturn. How does that affect your revenue?
That affects our revenue in many ways, and we hope that we'll at least be able to keep what we have going at the present time in the future as well. We've taken a little bit of a hit in terms of external research funding, But we hope that perhaps the stimulus package that's just being put in place now will help us out in that area. And so we are hopeful that we'll be able to keep on all the functions that we've been doing and maybe even increase a little bit.
There's the old ROI, the return on investment, that I know your university's proud of, and if the funding starts to get cut, so does the return on investment.
That's true. The state of Oklahoma provides about $92.5 million to our Health Sciences Center. For that, they get almost a $650 million return. So that's almost a 1-to-7 return, and that's a pretty good investment these days. And so we know that if we had more state funds, that we'd be able to do a lot more with all of that. But at the present time, I think that we're just going to be able to have to hunker down just like everybody else is doing with the economy the way it is.
What size staff do you have at the Health Sciences Center from the standpoint of professionals and administrative clerical people?
Well, so for example, we have about 900 faculty, of which more than 500 are in the College of Medicine. We have a staff of 2,400, and as well, we have 3,700 students on campus. So it's actually kind of a small city.
The training of doctors and the funding that you mentioned, how little you're getting in comparison to surrounding states, that's just the state portion that you're talking about, I take
That's
it.
correct. That's correct.
And then the burden's on your shoulders and your contemporaries to build it up other ways.
Right. We bring in a fair amount from research, probably $150 million of research. Our clinical enterprise is about $250, almost $300 million a year, that our physicians seeing patients are able to utilize that income to help support medical education in the state.
Well, will the cost of indigent care at your facility increase now with the downturn generally in the economy?
Well, I suppose, I mean, we have certain limits of finances that come into the institution, but I would anticipate that we're going to have more indigent care. Academic health centers across the country make up only 6% of hospitals. However, they take care of more than almost 50% of all indigent care. And so we are a safety net for not only our state, but for our nation.
There's been a number of success stories involving research that takes place on your campus. What are some of those areas that you think are most proud of that maybe not everyone has heard of through the years?
Well, a couple of areas. I think that we are a leader actually in gynecological cancer. The protocols that we have been adopted almost all over the country, and actually we had a visit from people from MD Anderson who just marveled at how much work we're doing, how much more work we're doing in this area than they are. And they want to collaborate with us, which is really a nice thing to say about what's happening here. I think the other thing is that the Cardiac Arrhythmia Center is something that's very well known in terms of one of our investigators was able to develop a procedure of catheter ablation. You just go in and you find out the nerve patterns in the heart, and you can stop these fibrillations that people have and the arrhythmias that they have. And I think that those are really important advances. And I can't say enough also about what's going on with our diabetes center. Just this past year, we've increased the number of patients that we're seeing now by over 1,000, and that's going to be continuing to happen in the future.
Of those patients, we've had other guests on previous shows talk about what they expect to be an explosion in the younger person's affliction with diabetes. Is your center seeing anything that means that the average age of the patient is going down?
The average age is going down, and it's estimated that 1 in 3 children in the state are either going to have type 2 diabetes or already have it, and that's startling. Now, you also have to keep in mind that 2/3 of the people in the state of Oklahoma are either obese or have diabetes, and that is a big problem. And Mayor, we're really proud of all the things that you've done to help people learn about weight control and the importance of that in their own health.
Well, and since you're leading us into that subject, at what point will this become an epidemic, or would you say it's already to that point?
Yeah, I think it's already an epidemic. I think it's clearly an epidemic when you have 2/3 of the people either have are obese or diabetes. 40% of our population that comes into the hospital for anything also has diabetes. So it's another complication that's superimposed upon whatever they're being treated for.
Now, is diabetes, not to spend the rest of the show on it, but I'm just kind of curious, is that by and large preventable?
Of course, I think all kinds of studies have shown that if we can keep our weight down, that's going to have a significant impact on lowering the number of diabetes cases that we have.
What about the anti-smoking efforts that we've been seriously involved in Oklahoma and around the country for the last decade? Are you seeing any positive implications there?
There are positive implications, and the number of smokers in the state of Oklahoma has actually decreased. And so we're not really at number 50 in the country. We're somewhere, in the 40s, but it's nice to see that the tobacco prevention efforts that we've had in place are really doing some of the things that they're supposed to do.
We've talked about smoking, we've talked about obesity. Are there other health concerns out there that you think don't get enough attention?
Well, those are the two biggest areas, because those are things that we can actually lower the incidence of all disease by paying attention to smoking and diabetes. Cardiovascular
Largely,
disease.
those are choices that people
Those
are
are
making. They're choosing
choices.
to not watch what they eat or eating too much, and they're
Exactly.
choosing to smoke, and those are things that are reversible.
Exactly.
Let's talk just for a second about stem cell research. Do you see, I'm not trying to get into the politics of it or what's right or wrong about it, is there theoretically some significant positive advantage from stem cell research
Well, of course,
in treating diseases?
Of course, we're already doing adult stem cell transplants, for example, and they're very successful. When we have a patient with leukemia or something of that, and we have bone marrow transplants that are successful. And there are other kinds of adult stem cell procedures that are successful. Now, there's currently an argument about embryonic stem cell research. That kind of research is not going on in the state of Oklahoma, but the next advance could be one which would help cure a disease such as Huntington's disease or Parkinson's, or people who are crippled with spinal defects. Or handicapped in that area. Or so even, for example, in diabetes. There's experiments in animals that show all of these things can be done with embryonic fetal tissue in those same animals. And so people are trying to adapt those kinds of findings to the human situation. And those studies will continue into the future, whether it's in the United States or any other country in the world. It's going to take place.
Well, Dr. Ferretti, we really appreciate you coming back on The Verdict. Always a wealth of information. We're very proud about what goes on out there in Northeast Oklahoma City.
Indeed.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Joe Ferretti with the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center, today's guest on The Verdict. Kent and I'll be back with a final word right after this.
It's time to meet the new people in power.
The people responsible for our energy future.
It's you.
It's me. All of us together.
From now on, we're the people in power.
OG&E will supply the power.
It's how we apply the power that counts.
We've got to use electricity smarter,
Wiser.
cleaner,
Better.
So we've got to be informed,
Equipped.
prepared.
committed.
From now on.
Look, nobody wants to waste energy.
Nobody wants to build new power plants.
Nobody wants to pay more for electricity.
But nobody wants to give up their way of life.
We don't have to.
If we just use positive energy together.
I'll take advantage of off-peak hours.
That means cutting energy use from 1 to 7 every day.
Every day.
I'm going to sign up for more and more wind power.
We'll take advantage of the high-tech tools coming soon from OG&E.
OG&E can't do it alone.
It's you and OG&E working together.
Find dozens of ways you can help at OGE.com.
A positive energy future is in our power. Together.
good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're wrapping up the show with Dr. Joe Ferretti of the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center.
I have a view out of my office that looks over the Health Sciences Center, and it's just amazing to see. Almost always there's a tall crane out there working, and that's been the case for a decade anyway, and it just never seems to slow down. They've got a lot going on.
The economic development that's emitted from that campus is staggering. Of course, those are higher paying jobs and the type of jobs that the state of Oklahoma is trying to attract. And so in these stressful economic times, it is important that the state of Oklahoma remember the job creation that takes place down there and makes the decisions appropriately. And I thought Dr. Ferretti made his case very, very well when talking about what Oklahoma receives currently funding and compared to the other states around us. Next week, we're going to meet a U.S. Marshal.
Yes. Mike Roach, the U.S. Marshal for the Western District of Oklahoma, is going to be on with us talking about what his job is and how he does it.
In the meantime, go to our website, theverdict.tv. Tell us about a show you'd like to see right here. We'll see you next week.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.